This is the JWN podcast. Taylor Lee Czerwinski is a portrait and lifestyle photographer, artist, and musician based in Charleston, South Carolina. She also is the founder of 9 to 5 magazine, which is a print magazine that focuses on music and art submitted by readers. This is one of those fun conversations with a creative that I know from the local scene, but I've never really had a chance to sit down one-on-one with her. So join me as we get to know each other. Here's my conversation with Taylor Lee Czerwinski. You are a professional broadcaster.
I am.
On Ohm Radio.
Rest in peace, thanks to COVID.
Is it done?
We haven't been back since the beginning of this year.
So when you were doing... They have just shut down completely?
Well, Ohm Radio hasn't. They've done a really good job. Jenna Feeney has continued doing her live and local, which is similar to what we were doing. We were bringing in a lot of local artists too, but we loved having the artists in the studio playing their music with us. It's just a really cool experience.
Yeah.
But everything is via Zoom, which is really cool that they're still able to air and record via Zoom, but I don't know. It's a different experience for sure.
It really is. Well, because now there's so many variables. It's stressful because, especially with musicians, some of the best musicians in the world, they don't have any technical ability to make something sound good over a Zoom call. You know, some of them are really talented and can make it sound better than if they were in studio.
And if they're a full band and not just a singer-songwriter, right, you know, they are going to need their, you know, tambourine player in there with them. So
their tambourine player is important.
My favorite, I think our favorite episode was when we had Orange Doors in the studio, because they have a tuba player, which is crazy.
Yeah, that's a lot to fit in a room.
In an Ohm Radio box, that box is so small. And then they had a xylophone and just really fun instruments that we were not expecting. And they actually, it was improv for them. They're like, we've never even used a xylophone before, so let's see how this goes.
That's awesome. Wait, so cool. they went on live on radio. Let's try something different.
They did.
They broke all the rules. They literally broke all the rules. Like, you're not supposed to try something new like that. That's good for them.
That's the Orange Doors for you.
That's brave. I like it. So what we were just talking about before I hit record, and you're like, you want to start with that?
Oh,
I totally
yes.
blanked.
I said I will never date a musician.
Yes. Okay. Sorry. I just blanked. So elaborate on your experience with dating a musician, because I think it goes further than musician. It takes a special type of person to make a long-term commitment to anybody that's in the arts, any of the arts. I
think it takes one to know one, and that's probably why I have that perception. I'm a visual artist primarily, but I am a musician as well. My father's a drummer, and my brother's a guitarist, and music's always been in our family.
What do you play?
I'm a singer-songwriter.
What? I had no idea.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting. 2020 has gifted me space to really contemplate, obviously. Yeah. We all have been doing that this year. But I started reading this book called The Artist's Way. And it's all about understanding your inner child and playing. And I was like, okay, well, what's the thing that I do to play or escape or, you know, that really fills me up? And I'm like, other than photography, like I do play music, but I don't share it with anyone.
Nobody?
You know? Just my partner. He's actually been he is the biggest influence on me, because he taught me how to play ukulele and some guitar. So, yeah, and I taught him how to sing. So it was like he was the only person that actually we pretty much held each other accountable.
So, wow. So that's a very stark contrast to Presley, who I recently had on the podcast, who like learned how to play guitar, and then less than a year later, she's recording, out playing, performing. I'm like, Wait, what? I was blown away.
Well, that's the thing about songwriting that I learned is that the instrument is just a vessel.
Yeah. Well, but the thing that I'm curious about with your attitude towards it now is, are you not sharing it because it's too personal or because you're scared that it's not good enough?
Well, I guess my initial thought, because I asked myself this a lot, my initial thought was, I guess what am I afraid of? And it was that, I'm surrounded by my dad and my brother and all these amazing Charleston musicians. And I was like, I feel like I'm so inexperienced. I've only played the ukulele, and the music that I listen to is more complex. And I feel my music doesn't really match kind of my taste. And so it was kind of like an identity kind of crisis. Like, I'm like, I don't know if I really know what kind of music that I want to play, even though I'm playing stuff,
right.
So when I release it, it kind of shows you as the artist, like, this is what I identify as myself. And I was like, I guess I was having like identity crisis. I was like, I don't know if this is like really like my voice yet. I'm still figuring it out. But then I realized that I think that's all bullshit and I'm just being afraid and I should just release stuff.
I agree with that sentiment. It is all bullshit because that is your voice at that moment. It may change. There's a huge difference between photography as a medium for expression and songwriting, simply because photography, it's very abstract in what you're trying to communicate if you're trying to have a message, because you might be using color, shape, lighting, mood, all these things. You're collaborating if you're shooting people with another person. You're basically using a tool to capture something that exists in real life, and you're using your composition to interpret it, right? And it can be very abstract. It's not going to be straight to the heart of something, whereas songwriting could be abstract, but for a lot of people, you're expressing something that you really are thinking that's coming to your head.
I think, well, it depends on what kind of photographer you are.
Yeah.
It's, I think, one of the biggest tools of self-expression because there's so many different ways that you can approach it. But I guess for me personally, as more of a portrait photographer, it's more like, it's not as vulnerable. It's flipped inside out almost. Being a photographer, I'm on the outside showing you something else and making you think about something away from me. That's not necessarily
nobody sees
me.
you holding the camera except for the subject while it's happening.
It's not really about me. It's about the picture. As opposed to music, it's flipped inside out where it's more inward. It's all of me. All it is me.
I love this.
And I guess I'm so used to being on that other side of the camera that I don't necessarily love the spotlight.
Right. But I will argue that when you are creating anything, it is about you. Because, like, one of my favorite things to pick apart and notice about traditional artists, especially portrait artists, is if you look closely at anything they paint or draw, there's always something that looks like them about it. It always kind of resembles them to a certain degree. They're always putting themselves into it subconsciously. And I think in a more abstract way, you're doing that with photography. And I noticed this in portrait photographers specifically, because I can look at a body of work. Like if you show me your portfolio of all of your portraits, I can get an idea about you because of the way of what you're capturing. Like what's the expression on people's faces? Like what are they putting out there? And what are you, if you see a selection of photos from a shoot and the ones that are drawn to you, there's a lot of you put into that. Like there's a reflection of how you feel or what you're aiming to convey.
Absolutely. Shooting people is a relationship that when I find photographers when they're first starting out don't necessarily realize, because they get into that initial shoot and they're like, I don't really know how to pose my subject or kind of get them to warm up and open up to me. And it's almost like you have to understand psychology a little bit and how to make the other person feel comfortable and at ease. And it's not always the photographer's job. That's my favorite quote by my favorite photographer, Annie Leibovitz. It's not always the photographer's job to set the subject at ease. But I do find that whatever it is you're trying to say, it is, on you to kind of open your subject up to that idea.
I think one of the most important lessons I ever learned in portrait photography was being, I went to this like day-long seminar taught by Joe McNally, who is just, he's a legendary old school Nikon photographer. Oh. He's shot for every major magazine, every single one of them he's shot for. And he pulled me up out of the audience to use me as a test subject. And the lack of direction he gave me and the ability for him to like pull exactly what he needed me to do without like saying much of anything. Just from like his looking at me, and he was able to direct me without directing me.
Wow.
And it was the most important thing because you get so hung up. I don't know what to tell people to do. I don't know how to tell them to pose or which way to go. And then you realize, well, yeah, that's all just, they're not, people aren't a puppet that you can just like maneuver. Yeah. There is an art to posing certain people and to getting them out of their own head. And that's about where it ends for me, like is getting people to move around, just giving them directions to make them feel like, oh, I'm just going to listen to this guy. But really what I'm trying to do is distract them. I'm really trying to get them to like, to release whatever voice in their head is telling them that there's a camera up to someone's eye and that they're getting their picture taken. But yeah, I do think that it's so important that when you start writing music, to start letting other people listen to it early, or else you might get stuck in that phase of you'll never be ready.
It was really going through my voice memos on my phone and listening to things dated back literally to 2013 that I realized this isn't going away. I'm going to keep writing songs via voice memo because that's just how I know how to just document things as quickly as possible so I don't forget it. And I just realized that some of the songs, are pretty damn good. So I should probably archive them. And who better than all these musicians I've gotten to know in this beautiful city. And I reached out to Corey and Jenna of Babe Club, and I'm recording with them.
They've become like
they're my little family.
They're like the new house band for Charleston up and coming musicians.
Yeah,
I love it.
Well, Corey and Jenna are both producing. So they're helping, not just me, but local band Argo. They just are helping them record too, and a bunch of other artists too, which is pretty awesome.
That's just so cool. Yeah, I love those two. They're
just check out Babe Club.
I mean, that's that's a given at this point.
Yeah.
But and I think I've talked them to death as far as giving them praise this year because they deserve it. It took them long enough to release like something out into like a physical release, and it's fantastic. They really took their time, and to listen to them talk about their recording process and what they went through.
Yes,
how many times they'll record a song before they finally like will just settle on it. Yeah, it's a very meticulous thing, but I also find that to be I guess it just depends. There are some artists where that works for.
Yeah, I think honestly I was kind of like them, not that they're perfectionists, but they just really have a vision for what it is that they want to do, and they're not willing to settle for anything that doesn't match that vision. And so I really respect that about them. And that's also why I love working with them, because Corey is always like, him and Jenna kind of get into it when we're recording my music, because I come in with a very like raw demo. It's just me and the guitar, few chords, there's not much, but they come in with like all these ideas and like how the synth should sound and like what texture it should be. And all the layering of harmonies. And sometimes I love like how passionate they get, and they fight sometimes over like, no, it needs to be this. Like you don't understand. I'm confident it has to be this. And I'm just like, that's so cool.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't know what it's like to perform with other, it's been so long since I've played in a band, like a different band. I played in the same band forever, even though we might have changed some members around and things like that. But like the core songwriters, the fights we would have.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had a bass
you're
thrown
all
at
creative.
me.
You're all creative. And, you know, if you're visualizing things so fully, like in your heart, it's hard to let that vision go sometimes.
Oh, it's an intensely passionate expression when you're playing, performing, writing, especially when you're creating music. It's so like you get an idea in your head and like, no, play it this way. And the person's like, well, I think you should play it this way. And then, oh no. Now it's going straight to hell. You're fighting at that point. And that's tough. That's tough to give somebody, to know when to step back and let somebody's idea like come to fruition.
Right.
And that's a superb talent to be able to stand back and be like, okay, let's try it your way. And because at that point you're serving the song, you're like, maybe their way is the better way. Let's listen to it.
I think in order for that really to happen, it comes down to chemistry and really having trust for the other person.
Yeah.
You know, like a relationship. Bands really are like a relationship, a married couple.
Well, let's talk about you a bit more, since this is all about you. You are extremely active in the creative community in Charleston, as well as more than just Charleston. But obviously, we live here, and it's a fantastic place to be into the creative arts. And you founded, am I correct?
Yes.
9 to 5 magazine, which is an actual print and online magazine.
Yeah, it's a publication. It's an entrepreneurial creative magazine that highlights mainly music, photography, and other visual arts. We release, let me back up. We used to release every quarter, but now moving forward after COVID, we're doing biannual. So.
Right. And that's still amazing that you're able to
I know.
pull that together.
It was, when I first started it, the only reason I wanted to start it was because of the lack of archiving for photography.
Yeah.
You know, being in an age where Instagram is very prevalent in showcasing your work, I also realized how fleeting it was and how content driven it was. It was like the image was only mattered for like a moment of seconds, quite literally.
Yeah.
And then it just passes on by.
Can someone scroll past it, or will they stop long enough just to tap on that little heart and then keep scrolling? Will they stop, tap on the heart, and maybe even comment on it or share it?
Yeah.
You know, like all of these levels of engagement, regardless if you get all of those levels of engagement, it's a fleeting moment. Yeah, you're correct.
And
100%.
that level of dopamine actually varies so much, because a like is like one level, a comment, another level, a share. Oh my God.
Right.
But what I noticed is when I was doing print and publishing others' photos, like they would cry. It was like the most dopamine I've ever seen.
Yeah. The first time as a photographer that you see your photo printed in a magazine or newspaper or whatever it is, any kind of publication, it's mind blowing, because you're just like, whoa, like that's my work. There it is. Just like every other professional photographer, it makes you feel legitimate.
It does. It takes your work to another level, and then to be able to have a print of it, I think is such a gift. And to be able to have something where you can show your future family one day is also like, because is Instagram going to be around in 20 years? Who knows?
Well, that's the thing, because I remember back in the way back in the day with MySpace, like building up this huge MySpace following, and then it was just gone.
I would spend hours on MySpace.
Oh yeah. I had a huge following of people built up, and then it was just like, oh, well, no one's using this anymore.
It's not cool anymore, Facebook.
Yeah, it became a graveyard, and it was like, oh, well, I guess that all that work went in for nothing. And then I did the same thing with on Facebook on a business page. I spent all this effort trying to build it up, and then they pull the rug out from underneath you. And those business pages are useless unless you pay to have the content seen, right, even by the people that have followed or liked your business page.
Yeah.
You post something, they're never going to see it unless they go there directly to look for it. It's not going to show up in their feed unless you pay to promote it. And once they did that, like, it was like it was instant. It was like they changed their algorithm, and all of a sudden you'd post something and you get no engagement. And you're like, what happened?
Yeah. And then you take it personally. And if you don't even understand that about Instagram, then you're going to feel pretty low. And
Instagram is it'll go away one day. There'll be something else that replaces it. And at some point, and you're seeing people flocking away from these things as well. Mm-hmm. I don't know about you, but I Facebook is almost clinical at this point. I'll go on there. I'll like snipe in there. I'll open it up, post something, and get out.
Yeah.
And maybe like I'll check and see if there's any like thing that I need to follow up on. But for the most part, no. I'm just I don't want to see what other people have to say. It's like forced interactions with family members and things like that you might just, I don't know.
I feel a lot of people have this understanding, yet we still find it obviously essential, especially as a business standpoint. So I'm definitely curious to see how things are going to change in the future. But for now,
some of those traditional mediums, like a magazine, like a print magazine. Yeah. I mean, it's a little, there's certain magazines that I hold and cherish, like art magazines like Juxtapose or High Fructose are some of my favorite magazines. And you can't throw them away.
No.
They're like a classic National Geographic. Like, you cannot throw them away.
Those things are huge as well. They're like straight books.
And the paper's super high quality. Everything is amazing on them. But you're like, okay. After a while, it's like my vinyl record collection. It starts getting out of hand, and you're like, I don't know what to do with this stuff. So, but I agree with you 100%. Like, having a print magazine is such a cool thing. Like, you're an interesting cat because not only do you do this, I want to talk more about this magazine, but you're also into photography, and you primarily shoot film, right?
I learned photography via film, and I actually still shoot with the same camera that I bought from my high school teacher in 10th grade.
Wow.
So it's a Pentax P3, just a little 35 millimeter. And I love that camera. It's really never done me wrong. And yeah, I think I just love, anyone that shoots film knows that shooting film rewards you later, because you have to obviously wait to see the pictures, and that feeling of excitement when the shots actually come out firstly when you're learning. That's the most exciting thing. You're like, wow, my whole roll's not blank. I did all right.
All right. Yeah. Oh, I didn't mess up that setting on the whole thing. Like,
it's a beautiful medium, especially actually went to college for painting. So I always found that shooting film was more close in relation to painting, just because, when you're printing, it's kind of like painting light in the dark room, and also being able to choose different films varies your color, your white balance.
Right.
Having an understanding of all those different elements, you get to choose so much.
Yeah.
And have so much control. And I was like, this is like just really, really cool, and a more grounded way to be present while shooting.
Yeah, it's funny that people out there think that film is more pure than digital because you don't manipulate it. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
People manipulate film all the time.
They manipulate the hell out of it. That's what the dark room is for.
Yeah.
There's a photographer, Tyler Shields. He's kind of like a famous celebrity photographer who shoots film, and he does like these big, elaborate shoots just to get one frame, which is pretty interesting.
Wow.
I love that. I love working to get one frame. I hate shooting events and things like that where I've got to deliver hundreds of
1,000 pictures.
Yeah, to me I think I've discussed this before on the podcast, but I can repeat it again here. The problem with shooting an event or a wedding or things like that turn me off from it is, let's say I'm shooting your wedding and I hand over 500 images, right? Mm-hmm. And of those 500 images, there's probably maybe like 24 really good pictures.
Right.
Like maybe not even, maybe like 15 of like
the best
of awesome pictures. And maybe out of those 15, there might be one that might even make your portfolio if you're lucky, right? But so if you were going to create a blog post about this wedding, I'd say, here's Taylor's wedding and look at how amazing this is. And you'd see those best pictures. The problem is when I hand it over, now you're going to have 400 something images that are okay. And out of those 400 images, probably 300 of them are just, they're just blah.
Yeah.
They're just documenting what happened. They're not really artistic in any way. They are just kind of like running and gunning, trying to capture any moment that might happen. And most of them are just passing moments that are inconsequential. So to me, that kills me, because when you hand somebody that body of work, they'll be like, this is amazing. This is amazing. This is okay. This is okay. This, all right, whatever. And then flip. And by the time they're done going through them, they're like, oh man, that was an expensive thing. Like
that was exhausting.
Oh yeah. and it's just, you don't want to show all the ugly. You only want to show what's awesome.
I'll never give a client when they ask, can I just see all the photos, the raws? I'm like, no, absolutely not.
Well, can I just have I've had that request before.
It's like, you really don't want the picture where you blinked and your eyes are closed. Trust me.
Yeah. Or when I was shooting like in the dancing area part, and I literally shot 1,500 photos on burst, hoping that like somebody would do something cool. And then I show you the one photo that looks cool, and here is every photo leading up to that moment, and none of them are interesting. But
you'll never do that with film, because you only get, depending on your role, 24 to 36 shots, and every shot has to count.
Yeah.
It makes you focus on the shot that you're getting, and it's just holding yourself accountable that everything is in place, like that photographer you mentioned earlier, Tyler, he puts everything in place so that he can get that one shot, because that's all you need.
Yeah. He'll have a whole thing drawn out. Basically, he's got it planned out completely, and then he'll have a crew of people making sure everything's right. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a big production for one frame, and then he'll shoot it, in a large format, and then what he'll do is he'll print something and then destroy the negative. And put the destroyed negative with the print so that it's a one of a kind. Yeah.
Well, now, he probably sells that for $1 million.
He might scan the negative to reproduce digitally just for his website or whatever. But as far as like the actual printed from the film negative, which I guess there's a certain type of processing for the type of printing he does with like silver, like this whole thing. I don't want to get into the weeds about like the technicalities of what he does, but he sells these prints for like $60,000.
Yeah, I guess if I were buying a print for $60,000,
you'd want to know that like there's not 50 of them.
Yeah, I have the only one, and that has value for sure.
Yeah, and on the back of the print, like, because he prints them huge too. He prints giant prints, and then he'll put like a little envelope with the cut up.
Oh my gosh.
Pieces in there.
What a cool guy.
Yeah, it's very interesting to me to have that forced rarity, like, or scarcity of something, because that's something that doesn't exist with photography in general. If it's very rare you come across someone who's willing to go through all that work to make a one of a kind in photography, because it's a medium that has come down to the fact that we all got amazing cameras on our phone. So it cheapens somewhat the art form in the mindset of prospective collectors. So to go through all that work, in the digital age specifically, it makes me like, some of the iPhones are even better than digital cameras. Oh yeah, at times, I'm just like, this is crazy. So I feel film in a way is coming back because it just has a feel that can't be replicated.
no matter how hard you try in digital. It just can't.
I don't know. Have you tried some of these medium format digital cameras yet?
I've tested I forget what it's called. It's a Fujifilm one, the medium format. Oh, you have it. I bet you do. Oh, we're both Fuji shooters.
Yes.
So, we share a love, but, yeah, I've tried it out and yeah, it is pretty cool, but it's more about, I guess, the process. It comes back to the process.
No, I'm not going to disagree with you. My whole thing is though, I have a lot of respect for the whole going back to film thing, but I didn't grow up with film as far as like, I wasn't into photography until I had a digital camera.
Yeah.
I wasn't into it seriously. So going backwards to me, just for the sake of doing it, like you learned on and even in my high school, there was a dark room. I never stepped foot in it, which is sad.
Wow.
But I didn't know. I was a musician back then. Yeah. I was like, I was one of the people that didn't take photography seriously. And I kicked myself so much.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
In high school, I just didn't take school seriously in general when I was in school. But even in photography, I was just like, oh, this is just a class I'm taking. I was very much in love with painting.
Yeah.
So I was just not really, of course, taking it seriously. But then I took it more seriously when I was in college and went to College of Charleston for painting. And I needed to.
I had no idea you have a painting background too.
Yeah. Painting was everything for a long time.
Wow.
But then I got a 9-to-5 job after I graduated from school. And I wanted to not stay isolated in my room after work, working on paintings. So I was taking darkroom classes at the College of Charleston as well as painting, and decided to just pick up my camera and start going to see live music, and just started shooting all the shows that I could.
Are we related somehow?
Crazy.
Are like we long distance like relatives? Because it's very scary. Like the love of shooting music. My wife does not. I brought up the wife, so she does not understand when we were at FemFest, which we can talk about as well. I'm gonna segue in the middle of all these conversations, all these things that you have done that are awesome. And I would go take some pictures, and then I'd immediately like look at my camera and like send them to my phone so I could upload them or whatever. And she's like, "Are you even enjoying this concert?" And I'm like, "Immensely."
Yeah.
She's like, "But you're looking at your camera." I'm like, I can hear the music. And that's how if I were at home working on photos, I'd have music playing as well.
I will say, I know how she feels and why she would say that.
Yeah. Cause I get it too.
I felt that way before, you know, as a photographer, especially shooting music festivals where you kind of feel like, you know, when you're shooting an event in general, you have to take as many pictures as possible. So you have like a few great pictures.
Yeah.
And then sometimes when you're shooting so rapidly like that and then focused on getting them uploaded and sent off to post, it does kind of take you away because honestly, multitasking is not a thing.
No,
like
I agree.
You're never going to be fully present in doing anything if you're multitasking.
Yeah.
And I kind of was starting to feel that way. So I actually started shooting live photography with film to kind of counteract that.
Yeah. So, well, I agree with you, but I also enjoy doing it.
Oh, yeah. There's still an enjoyment, but I could see what she means about like, are you really here?
Yeah. And to an extent, there might be, I'm not paying full attention to the band. I'm just kind of taking in everything but I'm enjoying myself.
The energy is so great.
I am having a good time.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm a terrible person to go to a concert with if I have a camera with me.
Because you're just like adventuring around everywhere.
Yeah, because I don't want to stay in one place. I don't want to be in the pit, the photographer pit. I think that's a nightmare. Like that's the worst.
I love it because I'm so small.
Well, that's
I
true.
get the best view. That's actually my secret and why I started shooting shows was so that I could see and be up front. I'm just kidding, but it did help.
So I like getting in the crowd. I've discovered that I liked getting in the crowd to take shots. And the one thing that I'm trying to focus more on when I'm doing these things, especially when we get back into the festival season, is taking pictures of everything else. I always focus on the bands, and I'm like, the festivals are so much more.
The people represent the music a lot of times.
Oh, yeah.
Especially at big music festivals.
Yeah. And people are doing fun stuff, and they're just so... You can strike up a conversation with random strangers and just do fun stuff and take fun pictures with them. And one of my best friends here in Charleston, remember the First Flush festival that used to happen? I
went one time.
Okay.
It was super cool.
Yeah. It was friggin' cool as hell. And this person that I knew kind of whatever, we just walked around with my daughter and her, and we walked around to random people to take pictures with them. We would just walk up to random people and say, hey, can we take your picture with my friend or with my daughter? We'd walk up to the bands, like on the side of the stage, and get their pictures with everybody, random people, strangers.
So cool.
We were just like having a blast, just kind of interacting with people
just
and having
really present.
But it gives you an excuse to, if you feel like being social, you can be. If you feel like being antisocial, it's another great way to go visit, to watch music. I'll love going. I'm a go to a show by myself type of guy, because I know I'm miserable for my friends if I have my camera, because I'm not going to hang out with them. I'm going to be taking pictures and then looking at the pictures and not, Yeah. All right. So let's dive into a little bit more into your whole thing. So you went to college.
I did.
All right. And you have a family of musicians. Mm-hmm. You have any brothers or sisters?
My brother. Yeah, just one brother.
Just one brother.
He plays guitar and is a photographer as well.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So the whole family is creative.
I know. That's probably why I tried to do painting for so long. So I was like, I don't want to be like my brother.
I get it.
Genetics are strong though.
Yeah.
Sorry, Colin.
Well, you don't want to be known as Colin's sister that does the same thing.
And we weren't close growing up either, so that probably had something to do with it. But no, really, I always looked up to him, though. He's one of the best photographers I know, and he's my brother, and he started his own magazine, too.
What?
Yeah, the plot thickens.
Hold on a second. What do his voice memos look like on his phone?
Well, he doesn't sing, but he plays very particular kind of guitar where he does a lot of like finger tapping.
Okay.
He
like prog rock type tapping or more like jazz?
I guess prog rock. I don't really know. It's definitely not jazz. Okay. But he also tours with a band that is very much of his style of playing, but he tours with them as their photographer and videographer. They tour all over the world, actually. Their name is Vasudeva, if you've ever listened to them. Yeah, but they're an instrumental band that is of this kind of tapping nature. They're in like the emo kind of
this tapping nature
genre. Yeah, I don't really know how to explain it. It's under the category. I'm going to have
to look this up.
The genre of emo.
Really? But they like, well, you know what? When I hear like a band like The World is a Beautiful Place and I'm No Longer Afraid to Die, I don't know if you know that band.
I don't.
They're really good.
Wow.
But some of their music can get into that prog type of thing. Like they'll have these kind of long anthemic songs with tons of changes and shifts and stuff, but it's still got like a punk rock feel to it.
Yeah.
It's very odd to marry like indie rock with like, but it kind of makes sense. Guided by Voices, same thing. They've been labeled in the last few years as kind of venturing into prog rock territory with some of their music. Even though their songs might only be 3 minutes long, they'll have a ton of changes in 3 minutes.
It's the coolest thing. Yeah. I really love instrumental music because it is like singing with your instrument. It can just go wherever. There's really no rules.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I love jazz so much too, because like they can just move through the dissonance with such ease. I'm just like, how does this even make sense? But yeah, it's really cool.
All right. So let's
back to.
Yeah, you were in college. You've got a creative family. You're going to school for traditional painting, kind of just fine arts. You discover photography.
I rekindle my love fire.
Yes. You discover like what was your trajectory after that? You went to a regular 9-to-5 job and you decided photography was something you can do that wasn't as time consuming to stick keep you stuck in the house. You could be social.
Right.
When did you realize, wait a second, this could be a career? What was that like?
So I was working a job in sales and marketing, and there was a lot of...
Oh my gosh. Hi, Chad.
Oh my gosh.
That's kind of like what he started with for his job out of college.
Well, I'm thankful for it because it's clearly been correlated into the success of trying to open a magazine, understanding the business side of things.
It's an amazing skill.
Artist side, yeah.
It's the hardest one for creative people.
It was a good job, but I knew right away that I wasn't passionate about it. It was 100% just to have a good job on paper that looks good, and obviously for the money so I can pay my bills. But ultimately, I noticed a pattern where I was editing photos from shows at work. And I was just like, I'm not here. I don't care about being here. I want to be there. I want to be focusing on getting better at photography, especially digital photography, shooting live shows. Unless you have a crazy high ISO on film, it's really hard to shoot shows on film. Well, digital is the way to go. So I learned a lot. My brother was the one who got me into Fuji. Shouts out. He was like, you need to get this camera if you're shooting shows. I'm like, okay. And so, I'm honestly very new to digital. It's only been probably like 3 years. But
Fuji's a great way to get into digital from film because of the manual
settings.
Manual controls are all there.
I loved it. And so, I came back to work one of the days that I started realizing that I wasn't really at my 9-to-5 job in my mind anymore. I was just showing up physically. And I told my boss, who we were very close, we had a great relationship. I could just tell him anything. And so I said, Andrew, I think I'm going to quit and start a music magazine. And he was like, what are you talking about? Like, when are you going to have time for that? And I'm like, this is my 2 weeks. And he was like, oh my gosh. Okay, well, I support you endlessly, of course. And we want you to be happy. So
that's wonderful.
Yeah. Of course, my dad was like, what do you mean you just quit? You have to find another job. And I was just, power of the mind was like, I just know I don't know what's going to happen. But I know that I have a calling to do this. And so I'm going to pick up the phone,
Well, there's something hard about money and artists.
Yeah.
And I notice on your website, you have pricing listed pretty much, and you're not undercharging for your services at all. And a lot of people are afraid to even answer the question, how much would it be for this? Because they're afraid of the rejection when they tell them the actual, what it's actually going to cost. But I would imagine your sales background broke down that barrier for you where you don't have a problem telling somebody, hey, this shoot's going to cost $500, Well, that was mainly experience on my own where I had to learn that. I remember the first shoot I ever did, I was only charging $75. Right. And that's basically you're giving it to them.
Yeah.
But you're just putting a price tag on it.
Just to say that this, even though I don't know, because I'm still new at it, it still has value regardless.
Right. Even if you charge someone $1, it's better than giving it to them for free. Because if you give it to them for free, they're going to expect for free all the time.
Right. Yeah. And I just slowly over the years as I was growing and learning and just bettering my technique that, I was looking at other photographers' work that I really loved and felt like, not that we were at the same caliber because we're all different, but kind of like we're at the same sort of learning curve level. We're kind of doing the same thing. And I just asked them how much are you charging for a shoot? And I was like, whoa, you're charging way more than me. And I'm like, I am so undervaluing myself. And I did an experiment where the next shoot that I got, I said, I'm going to charge $150 more than I normally charge and just see what happens. And then they were like, oh yeah, cool. That price is fine. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. I took a risk. It's really panned out. And then I just changed my rate right then.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely, I had a recent situation, right before the holidays. Somebody contacted, my studio about a family shoot. And I do mostly commercial stuff professionally, like corporate headshots and architectural real estate type stuff, things like that. I will do family stuff every once in a while, but I don't really like put it out there. I don't advertise. Like I've got one coming up this week that I got to do, which I know the people, so I'm happy to do it. It's like that's a different relationship. But this person came out of the blue looking for like certain things, and it was understandable. You know, during this year, it's hard to get like family photos done anywhere. But then I was just like, oh, let me look and see if I can refer them somewhere. And I'm like, there's no studios anymore around here. Like I couldn't find any portrait studio, like a traditional portrait studio. They've all closed down.
Did King and Fields close? They were located downtown by the Harbinger.
Right. No, I'm looking up in the Somerville area.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't see anything in the area like that was gonna, you know, I think she was looking probably for more like a Sears portrait studio type of situation. Like, you know, but there used to be a couple of those studios around still. And they've all kind of gone away. So I feel like just like camera stores, like actual physical studios are going away. They're very hard to come by anymore. Even any like music studios too, I'm sure are a lot harder to come by. There's a lot fewer of those because people are doing them in their bedrooms.
Everything's DIY, which is both a beautiful thing, but then it just takes away like, you know, obviously the getting out and like being present in the world and like going places and shopping from an actual store and leaving your house.
Oh yeah.
You know, so yeah.
I think when the lockdown first happened, one of the things that my wife and I did after like a prolonged period of time of doing nothing, I was like, let's just go to the outlet mall because it's outside.
Like, whoa.
And this was like, you know, probably in April or something like that. And there was nobody there. And most of the stores were still closed. But it was just like walking around and it's like, oh, this feels like a weird post-apocalyptic movie. Walking around like this establishment that usually is bustling with people and energy and things, and nope, it's all gone. And it's scary to think like of how many of those types of experiences will eventually just go away. You know,
right?
I don't know when the last time I can, you know what I'm saying? Like those types of things, are they going to last?
I don't know.
Malls are shutting down everywhere.
This is how we've been talking about print versus digital all the time. You know, it's like, how are we going to have a lasting experience?
Right. Yeah.
Crazy.
It's. Did you watch this Wonder Woman movie that came out on Christmas?
No.
All right. It's not as good as the first Wonder Woman movie, and I'm not a big superhero movie guy, but like I just watched it anyway, just cause. But there's a scene where they're in a mall, and you know, it's supposed to take place in the 80s, and they found a mall that hasn't changed since the 80s. Like it was a shut down mall that they kind of like rented the mall and used it. But that's the thing, like I remember as a kid, the mall was a place to go to socialize. That was a place where you could take the bus to go to it, go and hang out in the mall, meet up with your friends, go to the food court.
The food court's the best part.
Yeah. And like, I don't think malls are going to make it.
I travel to Arizona pretty frequently. My partner, we met in Charleston, but he moved to Phoenix because he joined the Air Force. And so we, over the last time I was there, like only just like 3 months ago, we decided to go to the mall because they have a Lush. For anyone that knows, Lush is the best. They have a Lush. So we went to the mall. But the mall was actually a place, in Phoenix at least, a place to be social. Kind of like, you know, why malls existed in the first place. This one in particular hadn't really died out so much. There were so many people there. The food court was rustling and bustling. There were just people hanging out outside. There was like a green space. I was very surprised. I was like, what is this?
Yeah. It feels like you're going back in time.
I did feel that way. So there is maybe some hope.
Yeah. Well, like anything, it will become kind of like the top ones, the biggest mall, like the Mall of America probably won't go anywhere.
No.
But all the tiny little malls, the Citadel malls of the world are going to just turn into drive-through COVID testing sites. Like
they're actually turning them into production offices as well.
Right.
Just office space.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. There might be some photo studios in there.
There you go. That would be amazing. I don't know. I've been looking, I've been trying to, I've been eyeing commercial real estate because I want a space. The size of this place doesn't bother me for what I use it for. The only thing that bothers me is the height. Like I want more height.
You need height.
And I don't have a lot of height. So I'm very limited to the kind of lighting that I can use because I can't put giant modifiers in here. Yes, I can use the ceiling.
I'm looking for a space too. So if you want to go in on a tall ceiling space together.
I don't know. I was looking at a place in West Ashley. That would be perfect, and it's not too expensive. In fact, I'm going there later today to get some acupuncture.
Oh my gosh. We could talk about this after the show.
I want to know you got into the magazine thing first before you decided to start charging for photography, or were you doing the photography on the side while you were working?
That's a great question. No one's ever asked me that, so kudos. But yeah, I guess I started the magazine out of frustration. I was just like, I'm shooting all these shows. I'm putting them just on Instagram, Facebook. I saw other photographers in the pit doing the same thing. And we're all just trying to get our photos looked at so that we can start monetizing off our work maybe one day. I guess I was trying to understand what we were doing in the pit. We enjoy it. We're shooting the shows. We love going to shoot live music.
Right.
But what is the goal for putting it on Instagram other than just self-validation or just sharing as just for
hoping
the art
that
of
the
sharing?
Band shares it.
Yeah, the band shares it and then you get 1 million likes and they pick you up. Are you trying to get a job? There's so many different...
What's the end game for that?
Yeah, there's so many different end games for being a photographer in this era. So I guess I was just trying to be yeah, what's the end game? What are we going to do with all these pictures? It's so fleeting. We need to do something. I almost felt like I had to rescue someone. I was really just frustrated. And so I felt, we need to archive this. And so I made it submission-based so that photographers who are out there doing the same thing as me would have a space to also be able to publish and archive and feel good about what they were doing.
That's awesome.
And then I realized that it was going to be a photojournalist magazine and we were going to interview bands and do all of that. And so it became more of this editorial kind of piece too. And so I started shooting portraits.
And that's okay. So this is where I'm going to talk to you a little bit. We're going to get a little bit more heady on the photography side and the creativity side. I feel like when I'm shooting a show, it's a lot less, unless I do weird cheap photography tricks that I think we've all tried and stuff like that. You have no control over the lighting.
Right.
You have no control over what the band's doing. All you can do is be in the right place at the right time. There's a lot of risk as far as trying to create something, and you don't have a whole hell of a lot of control. There's certain things you do have control of, but it's still wonderful and you love to do it regardless, right? But then you get the chance, like you said, to start doing portraits of the bands. And now you get to go okay, I'm driving here. I get to control all of those other facets of photography. What was that like when you started doing that? How was that coming out of the gate?
Oof. I feel my approach as a portrait music photographer was trying to understand more about the artist through listening to their music, of course. That's the obvious thing to do. But to also paint a narrative from their songs and implement that into the theme of what our shoot is going to be.
Interesting.
And so it became even more playful than just shooting the show and not even having a personal interaction with them. Instead, shooting the portraits, I realized not only can I implement their music into what I'm doing, but I also get to understand more about their music because we're having conversations.
Right, because if you come at them with something and they're looking at you that's not what that song's about at all.
Yeah, sometimes that happens, but I think that a lot of artists, they want you to take with it what you will.
The classic Rolling Stone magazine covers from the 90s, I think like Annie Leibovitz did a lot of those.
So inspired.
But I used to always be amazed by some of those photos because they would be so out there.
Yeah.
I'm like, why? What is going on here? Like, why is this artist wearing this weird outfit? And like, what is this supposed to mean? What's this?
Yeah.
And then you find out, like Annie is just playing with people. She gets an idea in her head, and I don't know if she's doing it to be as a reflection of the artist as much as she has something she wants to do, and you just happen to be the artist that's there that week. I could never really figure out what her MO was. So I like that you're using their creativity as something to bounce off of and collaborate with them on.
Yeah. It's been, I think, one of my favorite experiences that I've had as an artist, because being an artist can feel so isolating, especially, all artists are introverted by nature, but for me, I feel like everything I've ever done in my life has been like solo, like even in sports.
Yeah.
I did cross country, gymnastics, like those are all independent sports. And so it's just like, for me, it was the chance to collaborate while
still running the show.
Still running my own show, doing my own thing, painting my own picture.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, I 100% identify with everything you just said. I'm very much again, like sister from another mister over here. That you're just like, I'm into running. Mm-hmm. Is there any more, like you just said, cross country, like, is there any more solo?
There's nothing more solo than that. Painting was solo, sitting on an easel all by myself.
Yeah. and I get it. Like, part of the thing that is hardest for me is delegating responsibilities to other people and trying to trust other people with things that I want to create or put out there in the world. Yeah. So it's a hard skill to have, but you do notice that people who excel at getting from A to B quickly are the ones that are able to trust others and bring them into the fold. And that is something I wish I had that. But you know what I'm saying? Like,
it was a learning opportunity. I was like, sometimes, being an introvert, it's actually, it was quite scary for me at first. I was just like, I didn't really like being vulnerable because, like I said about my music, I didn't really like exposing that to other people. And so in this way, I kind of forced myself to be exposed and share my ideas and have to be approved by that artist saying like, yes, I agree with your vision. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And it was just like, wow, I really have to open up to other people and not just make things for myself anymore.
Right.
And so in a way, I guess wanted to take my art to a more like full developing journey of trying to just be a better person, be a better artist, be more connected to my community. Like, being an introvert, you're just like so on your own all the time and creating in your own room. And I just wanted to be connected to everything that's going on and stay inspired that way.
That's awesome. Yeah. It's a language for people who are not creative by nature. It's a language that people speak, that we all speak, even if you're not creative. You are. You just don't know it. You haven't identified it. You haven't figured out that, like, that thing that you do that frustrates you because you're not able to, like, put out there exactly what you mean or what you want to say. Like, that's why people do creative things. It's because you don't even have to have an overall, like, statement that you're trying to make in life.
Yeah.
It's just the way you naturally feel best communicating is through your photography, through your songwriting, through your painting. I want to hear all this stuff. I really can you make some sort of, like, since we are starting off a whole new year, I know it's just an arbitrary number for a man-made, like, calendar, but Can you put some sort of promise out there that you will release some sort of music in the coming year?
I am. My goal was to release it by the end of this year.
There's still time. Well, as we record this,
I'm still recording. We have 2 songs out of like 6 or 7 songs for my album that's going to be coming out. So
you're doing a whole album. You're not even. I'm not messing around. No single, just bam.
No, I don't do things halfway.
I love it so much. I can't wait. I can't wait till until I get the little notification that you're playing at like Tobin's Market.
Oh my gosh. I really don't love performing, but there's performing artists and then there's studio artists. I definitely feel very connected to the studio. And just I love recording.
I'm giving you the squinty eyes.
It's probably because all I do is like record by myself, so I'm just used to that.
But have you tried performing?
I have.
And you didn't like it?
Because I told you earlier, my dad's a drummer.
Oh, yes, you did.
He gigs like 3 times a week in Charlotte.
Oh.
And so when I go visit him, he's usually playing because that's all he does. And so he's usually invites me up on the stage. And he's like, Taylor, play a few songs. I'm like, oh, God, okay, fine. I'll do it. But
what songs are you playing?
I've sang Valerie, Amy Winehouse, with him. But honestly, I'll just play my own original music up there because I don't actually play or practice a lot of covers at home because music for me is really just my own therapy.
Yeah.
So I don't really practice a lot of other music, so not really good at playing covers, but yeah, I would just play my own music.
But now I've got a voice like an Amy Winehouse now is in my head to attach to you.
Yeah, Amy Winehouse, Sarah Bareilles is another voice that's kind of probably similar tone.
So you're like talented.
Tone as mine.
Oh my goodness! Wait a second.
I've heard Lana Del Rey, which is very different, but
well, hopefully you're not like her live. I saw her live once, and you couldn't even hear her.
Oh no,
she was so quiet. She was singing like this the whole time.
Is that her fault or the sound's fault?
I think it was her. It was her.
I don't whisper.
She was just very soft.
Yeah.
In her delivery, she was not.
She's very deep,
yeah,
which is hard to project.
Yeah. And I don't know what was going on. Maybe she had something going on that day.
Yeah.
Who knows? But I know everyone in the audience was just like,
what's
going on here?
Yeah. See, that's the thing about performing. You have to show up with everything that's going on in your day.
Yeah. Yeah, but I didn't. So, but you've named some heavy hitters as far as similarities and influences. That's now you've set the bar very high.
My biggest influence is even higher than those. For me personally, that's my own opinion. But Hayley Williams of Paramore was like, I would practice her growing up in the bathroom after high school.
That's pretty interesting.
She's my favorite.
Didn't she play? They played the Music Farm.
No.
Didn't they?
Paramore?
I know I've seen them before. I don't know if I saw them here in Charleston or not.
Oh, wow. I've only seen them once, surprisingly. It was in Atlanta. But they have huge shows. So it'd be really cool to see if they played a venue like the Music Farm.
I guess when they were coming up, they had to have been playing smaller places. It's very rare for a band to just come out of the gate like, hey, we're huge.
True.
It's so amazing when you look back at like classic rock artists and things like that. Like they weren't playing giant venues, like rock music.
Maybe like Rolling Stones.
But even, when the Beatles played Shea Stadium, that was like the biggest thing ever for them. And that was like the pinnacle. Same thing with the Police. When they played, I think it was Shea Stadium, they realized like, hey, it's never going to get any bigger than this. And they quit. And the Beatles stopped. The technology to play live music, rock music, the sound systems couldn't overcome the fans. So the Beatles would play and no one would hear the music. They'd just hear fans screaming the whole time. So it wasn't until like the late 70s, early 80s where you started getting arena rock because the technology of live music like caught up to the sounds that they were trying to make. So it's very interesting to think of like some of the biggest bands in the world. That's why Woodstock was such a huge deal. But like you have to imagine most of the people there couldn't hear a damn thing. They're out in this field and it's a tiny stage with this crappy little sound system. And you've got, what, 100,000 people there?
And you're like so far in the back.
Yeah. I imagine most of the people at that concert couldn't hear anything.
Wow. It was all about the party.
Yeah. But it's interesting to think of, like, in terms of today, you know, if you think of some of these huge acts, and they did play small places. They played theaters and things like that only handle a couple of thousand people.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting in that aspect, as far as like these legendary musicians, and you're trying to think like, oh, that would have been amazing to see them in these small places. But like that's all they ever played.
Well, small places, but I guess when bands are starting out, I think not a lot of bands would, I guess, really come to Charleston because it's always been kind of
off 26,
off the path.
I mean, off 95, I should say.
Right.
Yeah.
So, like, I know Paramore is from Franklin, Tennessee, so I figured that they just play shows up there. But I've been surprised. Like, Music Farm has housed some amazing bands.
Oh yeah, and the
like
music
pretty
hall.
big bands as well.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's pretty. I don't know what the situation is with the Music Farm at the moment. I heard it's for sale. I don't know.
It is for sale. They're holding out to make sure that the next buyer is someone that is going to really take care of it.
It's so scary.
Yeah.
The last thing we need is another parking garage or like
I
hotel.
I know.
And that's a prime piece of real estate right in the heart of downtown Charleston. All right. So let's talk about real quick. Because I know your time is limited. I don't want to steal your whole day from you. But I want to find out, going forward, what are you like, besides this album, which is more than enough, by the way. So if that's all you're putting your energy into, kudos. But for some reason, I don't think that's it. Where do you see yourself taking your photography, your magazine, your podcast? Hopefully you'll be able to pick that up again. Where do you see all these things? Are you going to continue doing them? Are you growing them? Are you changing them? Like what's something you can share? What's a piece of information in the world of Taylor that you can?
I will say Phoenix, Arizona.
You're moving?
I'm moving.
No! That's not the answer. Wrong. I need a wrong answer. Like
no,
sound
it doesn't.
effect.
Just because I'm moving doesn't mean I'm not putting
I'm
the album and the magazine and the sense of community and events that I'm throwing all on my back. Right. I'm putting it on my back. I'm taking it over to Arizona for a little while, see how it goes. And it's a city of 1 million people.
Yeah, it's
Charleston is such a small city.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just like, well, if I can do this here, I could probably do it with 1 million people. It'd be pretty cool.
I'm sure you can.
Yeah, reach more people.
Very different. Like, it's just everything's different.
Oh my God.
The landscape is different. The climate's different. The people are different.
The heat is not my favorite, but
it's a dry heat.
It's a dry heat. That's all they ever say. But I am also, another fun fact, an avid mountain biker. So
really?
I can do all the mountain biking of my wildest dreams.
Oh yeah, they have for trail running and things like that. Yeah. That's something that's so very cool. Difficult to achieve down here.
And LA is only 5 hours away.
Wow.
Which is crazy to think about. Like, that's not far at all.
No. That's like
around Charlotte from here.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
It's like going to see your dad.
Yeah.
But now you're going to have to go a lot further to see your dad.
I know. He'll come visit me.
I love it. I love that you're thinking, now what's bringing you out there besides the things you just mentioned? Is your partner moving out there?
No, he's there already. So we're in a long distance. Yeah, what are you doing, Joe? You're the worst host ever. No, I'm
just not computing.
We were talking about Fuji, and you just got really excited. Your endorphins just, you stopped listening to everything.
No. I'm sorry.
No, but my partner is in Arizona and he's not leaving anytime soon. So I am going. I'm taking a small risk, but I'm also looking at it as an opportunity to grow and to be open about why 9 to 5 exists, is that it's more of a statement than just a magazine. It's a platform for anyone who wants to be part of just being a better artist and taking their craft seriously. And it is not limited to Charleston. It's not limited to just a magazine. It's a collective of, it's become this collective where artists meet each other. They start talking, they start working together. And that's what it's been here in Charleston. And it's going to be different moving to a large city and finding a sense of this like small city. Town. Yeah.
Larger city.
Much larger.
Well.
But, you know, I think it'll be cool. And I think what Phoenix might honestly need, you know, being a big city, to have this sort of central thing come to where people can collaborate and like be together and
for all the reasons you said before connected. Too, having a physical presence of like an actual magazine, number one, like that is something that's rare to come by anymore. But something that's attainable for local people there as well as anywhere. That's the thing that people don't, I guess, understand is it's open to anyone, right?
It is.
Anyone, is someone listening in Poland could submit some photos about and some information about maybe a band in their local scene or whatever it is. Doesn't have to be a band.
Our 4th issue, which would be our beginning of our 2nd year of existing as 9 to 5 magazine, we had a submission from Istanbul.
Really?
Which is crazy. And I look at the analytics on the website, and it's not a lot of people, obviously. It's not even more than 2 hands. But we do have people looking at us in countries all over the world, which is insane. And we reach people in the United States, primarily also in New York and California, Georgia, Florida, North Carolina. Like it's way more than just Charleston. And because it's submission-based, we want artists to submit from all over the globe. Yeah. So I think I have to leave Charleston in order to do that mission.
Well, I get it. I get it. I hate it, but I get it.
I know. I hate it too, but I will be back.
For selfish reasons, I hate it.
I'll be back every year. I'm still going to come back, throw some parties, and then kick it back over in Arizona.
Heck yeah. So. And maybe you can introduce some of that, because we have such a healthy scene here for the reasons what you described, because we're off the beaten path for a lot of touring musicians. We have, out of necessity, facilitated this wonderful local scene, right?
Yes.
I always wonder, like, okay, in Phoenix, what's that local scene like?
So
is it healthy? Is it?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure they get a lot more larger acts coming since they're a major city.
They do. My boyfriend Austin, he's lived in Phoenix for 4 years, and he's very much integrated in going to see local live music. And so there are like quite a bit of smaller size venues where there's local music. And he says, there is such a great scene. I'm like, okay, there better be when I get there. But no, he's seen like really great bands he swears he would never see, like Mac DeMarco. He saw at a small venue, which is, you know, would probably not come to Charleston, honestly. I don't know if Mac DeMarco would come here, but
I think he's been here.
He has?
I might be nuts. I don't know. But he's an accessible musician. He's not out of the.
He would just need. You know, I feel like he could sell a show, like I guess maybe music hall size.
Definitely
bigger, probably bigger than that.
Well, I think for Charleston though, that would be a good fit for his style of music.
Yeah.
I would much rather see him in a place where I could sit down.
All right, I'm just making excuses over here.
I'm like Mac DeMarco. Yeah, I'd like to sit down for that show. I have seen him before.
Yeah,
and he's definitely
super cool.
It's definitely more of a mellow groove type of thing. Yeah, which is still fun. But.
Yeah, there's all sizes of venues in Phoenix.
Yeah,
I'm sure. I mean, with a smaller community, it's never going to feel quite as tangible.
Which can be your opening move when you get there? Like, how do you bust out? Do you just show up? Did you start guns ablaze and taking pictures?
Yeah, probably. Knowing me, I'm probably just going to get there and just go to every photography-based business and music venue and probably just introduce myself and be like, I'm a force to be reckoned with.
That's it. I'm coming here. Taking over. Hide your kids. Hide your wife.
Yeah, I'm coming in hot.
I like it.
We'll see how it goes. I'll let you know.
Heck yeah. The world is such a smaller place now because of our connectivity that I have no doubt that you'll do just fine.
And the cool thing is that the more I expand to other places, the more Charleston is the root of that. So, Phoenix artists are going to start knowing about Charleston artists, and that's how it all grows.
Heck yeah.
It's cool.
You're one person lifting a heavy weight of spreading the good word of Charleston.
I've had to do a lot of self-care this year.
We all have.
It's a lot of pressure, man.
We all have. All right. So let's get some plugs in here. So there's 9to5magazine.com, right?
Right.
What's your photography website?
It is my name, TaylorCerwinski.com.
And I will have, because there's letters in there that she didn't say. She's got one of those names like mine that are, when people probably see it on paper, they pause. Or when you get like a spam call, they go, "Can I speak to Taylor?" And then you're like, "No."
Taylor, pause. That's me.
Yeah.
That was me in school when they would do roll call.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I fully identify with you on that aspect as well. I'll put links to that in the show notes. And then on Instagram, your handles.
At Taylor Czerwinski as well. Perfect. And then at 9to5mag for Instagram.
Heck yeah. And people should submit. They should go to the website for 9to5 magazine and submit. It's not just music, right? Or is that the focus?
It is the focus, but it's also photo submissions from all kinds of themes.
Right.
Photography.
But you're not looking for someone to necessarily like, oh, look at here's a picture of the bridge in my town. Like, no.
We don't do. We do conceptual stuff. We don't do really landscape so much, except for Chad is actually going to be the exception this round because it's all about the storytelling.
Yes.
If there's not a story, then we don't really have a platform for it. Because that's really the center of what we do is we want to share stories that inspire people to pick up a paintbrush, pick up a camera, like just develop their craft and get inspired by the content that we're sharing.
Oh, yeah. That's fantastic.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, people, get into submitting your art
and they can also subscribe and get issues delivered to their house.
More importantly, pay some money to this man. All right. Well, this has been so fantastic.
Thank you so much. Reaching in my pocket for